Hi, I'm Alison Stewart and I run a strand of sessions at CMC called The Art Of. These are mini masterclasses where speakers talk about their careers and their passions. And last year, Ash Perrin, who's the CEO and founder of the Flying Seagull project, led a brilliant interactive session called The Art of Play. Well, Ash is back again this year and he's going to talk about the art of communicating playfully and how that can break down barriers. So here's Ash now to tell you more.
Hi, my name is Ash and I am the founder and CEO of an organisation called the Flying Seagull project. I was lucky enough to meet some of you guys last year and we had that extraordinary session together where we ventured into the world of play. Now, before we go on to we'll do a little recap of some of that and then we're going to look at communication. First of all, I want to tell you just precisely why I'm here and why there is a viewpoint that CMC think is worth me sharing with you. So 12 years ago, I was working as a professional entertainer, doing pretty well, all live stuff, private events and corporate gigs and things like that. And I would earn the money, good money, and then I would travel the world, having fun, but I always also took a little bit of magic with me so I could, have a more connected experience. Anyway, where I was in Cambodia, and I was just doing the things people do. I really was just, you go to this museum, you go in there, and as horrible as it sounds, I'm being candid, you go to an orphanage. It's a thing you do when you're about 22 and you think you're deep. So I went to this orphanage and I had a guitar with me, and I was just strumming away with some really kind of basic guitaring, knocking on heaven's door, G, D, A minor, round and round. It's also No Woman, No Crying, about 10 other songs. But I was playing this song, and all the kids just came one by one, and they sat, and they were so thrilled by what was an average music performance, but it was really authentic. I was trying to play for them. And when I left, I had this overriding thought, and it was the idea that entertainment and play and fun can't be or shouldn't be limited by, where you're born or what situation you're born into, or if you're abandoned when you're young like these kids were. And it was that thought that I thought to myself that the quality of life, the care, the love that is shown when you're genuinely entertained, when you're properly talked to, that love can't be held back or paused because you're not born in the right place, or you're not you don't function the same way. So I got in a car and I was thinking about this idea that there was no one to hug them, both physically but also spiritually, if they cry or if they have a nightmare. And I wept. I really thought, no, I'm a good entertainer, and I'm even better now. I was an okay entertainer then, but I thought even the fact that I played guitar and it maybe lifted them for 5 minutes, I've got to do something about this. We've got to make sure that entertainment and innovation and creativity and play must be accessible for more people. That was 12 years ago, so I literally flew home the next day, spent the remainder of my money. I was supposed to travel for a year around Asia, spent the remainder of my money on a van, and then I drove to Romania. And that was 12 years ago. We visited orphanages, kids' homes, special needs centres, hospitals where kids were limited in their lifespan, and we did music and dance and circus and clown and play, and we just never looked back. I've been doing it every year since, and so far we've met around just under 200,000 children around the world. Now, the last 4 years, I'm going to do this quick. I know I'm talking fast, but we've got a lot to get through. And then we're going to get to the actual art of. This is the art of introducing yourself. I hope you're enjoying it. What was I? Yes, the last 4 years was obviously devastating for anybody that's cast an eye over to the humanitarian crisis in Greece and actually across Europe, with the families that are seeking refuge coming from the Middle East and beyond. And there was obviously no way we could operate in Europe without including this horrible situation in our sites. And the first time we went there, I was totally unsure. Is it the right thing? How are we going to manage? And actually, this is getting us round to the point of playful communication. How am I going to interact with sometimes up to 11, 12,000 people in one camp? More now in Moria, more like 23, 24,000. How are we going to interact when I don't speak any of their languages? They don't speak each other's languages. I mean, there's Farsi, Arabic, Kurdish, hundreds more. There's probably 10 main languages spoken in every camp. How am I going to communicate breaking down that barrier through language. How am I going to communicate when there is such trauma and such danger and such tension everywhere in what is a humanitarian situation? It's a crisis. Food, shelter, violence, these are all day-to-day occurrences in what's now become our regular work. And how am I going to communicate a purity and an authenticity of good times and lightness in such a bad time and such a horrible situation? So it was a real opportunity for us to come to this real focus, which is what I want to talk to you about today, which is what is playful communication? How can you communicate playfully? And why is it necessary? Now, obviously, there's some obvious answers to that. Everybody here in some way works in some sort of the part of media that deals with children and children's entertainment, be it press or online or digital or full shows, whatever it is you're working on. We are all part of a communication industry. And essentially, if you're going to communicate with children, then it must be playful communication, or it just doesn't count. It's just not communicating with children. You see, play is the indigenous language of the child. If you try to communicate with them in terms of educationally or in terms of some hidden agenda, we're going to come on to this later, but it stops being playful unless you really know what you're doing. So I think it's time to start at the beginning. You know who we are. We're called the Flying Seagulls. We had teams until the current lockdown all over the world, and very soon we're going to go back. Right now we're planning a project in the Netherlands to visit elderly people. The lockdown there has been super hard on them. Same here in England, we've got a couple of teams doing that. And I'll fly to Greece in a week's time and try to see about how can we adapt again and again and again, so that whatever the obstacle, whatever the obstruction, however many of you, probably all of you, are facing right now this brick wall of uncertainty, of challenge, and half the way you do things that you've built for years and years have gone overnight. So we have to adapt. Now, in order to adapt, I think we have to understand precisely what is our mission. So we have a philosophy, it's called the end goal philosophy. This is what we use in all of our workshops. Partly it's so that you can really choose how you gauge success, because you need to know what you want out of a project. You could say, actually, this is really important when it comes to Zoom and in terms of the new norm, these horrible term that's used to describe where we're all at. It means that there is less person-to-person contact. So you really need to know what your end goal is. Are you going to set an end goal that is as flimsy as meet my deadline, hopefully my boss will sign it off? Or are we going to see our end goal as something else, something more important? We're going to get to that at the end as part of our kind of stuff to take away. But let's start at the beginning. I want to talk about what play is and what communication is. Now, I know that a lot of this is obvious for some of you guys. Now, and also, I probably should have got you up on your feet. We're going to do a bit of a workshop in the middle. For those of you who were with me last year, you know that it's more fun if you join in. I can't make you this time, but I promise you I will feel the disappointment if you watch this video and you don't at one point make a bit of noise. You see, it's energy. That's the essence of all of this. We're going to come on to it, but playfulness and play, communication. I don't know about you, but I am desperate for some energy. I can't watch this stuff. I went to an amazing conference a few weeks ago. I digitally attended an amazing conference a few weeks ago, and I've been in lots of different clown conferences, so no one's going to know which one I'm talking about. But I've been in multiple clown gatherings and circus gatherings and power of play conferences. And a person went on before me, and they made a speech, and it was around the subject of playfulness, clowning, and solidarity. Now, I am a big believer in all of those mediums. I think that is a uniting trilogy of everything I passionately care about. And yet, I have to tell you, it was one of the most boring, unenergized, and demotivating talks I've ever seen. And this is the challenge we're looking at. So for the rest of this now, I'm going to make sure that I start to set by example. We need some energy. You need to be watching something and feeling it. We can't just sit, and I don't know about you, but I actually genuinely sometimes drift out during Zoom meetings. It could be, I had a meeting the other day with 15 clowns from all over the world, and half an hour in, I started wandering off in my brain. I was considering which Netflix season to binge next. So do me a favour. Whatever it is, if you need to stand up to watch this, but I need you to engage. This is the whole purpose of this. This is about how do we defeat the temptation for lethargy, the temptation for apathy, and the temptation of bringing our current thing, our current offer, our current work interactions, our current creative ideas, allowing it to ebb lower and lower until people that normally thrill and inspire you bore and devour whatever energy you've managed to rustle up that day. I don't want to do it, so let's get up. If you need to stand up to watch this, do it. Give yourself a shake. Take a deep breath. Let's plan the future. Playfulness. A lot of you did meet me last year, a lot of you probably didn't, so just a real quick overview. What is play? Play is something that begins the second we are born. The first breath, your body is innovating, it's figuring out how to survive. Innovation is basically practical play. Everything you've done from the first time you squawked a gurgle, you're probably copying your mum or your dad, whoever raised you, or mimicking or mocking a sound you heard. The first steps you took. It wasn't like you had a schedule. Maybe your parents did. You know, she's 1.5, why isn't she walking? But you just played with it. You stood up and fell down, and you stood up and you fell down, and you stood up and you stayed up for a wobble, and then you fell down. It's all play. But play cannot have an agenda. Now, the game of walking, learning to walk, there's a goal, there's an end goal. Remember, we were talking about that. There's an end goal, which is, I want mobility. But it doesn't work if it's all super tense. You know the parents, I'm sure some of you have even accidentally been that parent before, who's like, come on, stand up, walk, and then you give up because they're not. The second you look away, they're up on their feet and they're toddling around. End goal is so important. What are you going to achieve from these games? Gargling, blah, blah. Yeah, I can go, go, hello. Can you say mummy? And they go, mummy. Maybe. You get the point. I'm being a little bit kind of cliche with that stuff, but it's a game, and when there's a light touch, when you're lightly communicating, you give the other person opportunity to be included. So what is play as well? Play is inclusivity. There is no standard that you have to achieve in order to play. I'm not talking about sport, I'm talking about play. Play and sport are different. Sport is a competitive and exciting other world, but this is play. Now, when you're playing, there's no such thing as not good enough. There might be winners, there might be losers, but you can say it's only a game. Because it's only a game, isn't it? And that's true. So the end goal is not going to be to win. It can't be, it's not in there. Normally the end goal is to explore, or to learn, or to enjoy, or to have fun. Now, if you immediately put this into the work that you guys do, the content you provide, or the role that you play within that provision, isn't it more true that you do your best work when you feel lifted by it, or when you feel tickled or amused by it? So play is that. Play is the authentic experience of active invention, innovation, and creativity. And what is innovation? Innovation is literally, let's be honest, it's the rebellious and playful act of taking something that doesn't exist and bringing it into your imaginative mind and then turning it into a thing. Or it's taking an idea that does already exist and saying, what if my lamp did that? What if it was bendy? What if it was green? You know, and you play around these ideas, every single piece of technology. Look at a laptop. What a playful idea. What if I could have my computer on my lap and it was tiny? What a playful thought. You're not meant to, you've got it on your desk. A laptop. Ooh, playful, exciting. I'm kind of labouring the point, but you get the idea. So play isn't just what you do in the garden when you're 3. Actually, play goes right through to right up to the top of the boardroom, right up to the commissioners, right up to for the presidents of your and the CEOs of your companies. Even think about the words that we use in business often. You have things like, you know, she's a hard hitter. He smashed that out the park. Or she's back in the game. You know, it's like we even use the language of play, and normally we use it when we're on a positive roll or a success. You see that because it has that sort of feeling. Those of us who are lucky enough, which I am, and I hope many of you are, in this sort of demographic, I suppose more people are than not, those of us who are lucky enough to actually be doing the thing for our job that we enjoy, that we love, that we're passionate about, then we already know the reason we went into that probably wasn't for money. Maybe you've got some now. Inshallah, you know, it comes. Maybe that came, but I don't know about you, I find that money or that support or those successes is a byproduct of when I feel like I'm doing the thing I love the most. I'm getting to live my energy, I'm getting to put in my thoughts. And when you have an idea like that, and people hear it, your boss or your colleagues will be like, wow, yeah, I like it. What happens then? You see, and it's that I think we're going to come on to shortly, which is it's that's missing when we strip right back and we think that Zoom's the answer. Seeing a person's face and hearing their noise is not communication. It's only one element of it. We're going to finish play and move on to communication really quick. Play is 360 degrees. If you try and get a kid to look here during play, they're going to feel everything else as well. Kids feel everything in 360. You know, like when you walk into a room, you go into a room and you know, even though you haven't spoke to anyone that you're going into, you know that those two people have had a row. You walk in, you can feel it straight away and you go, oh, that feels tense. Are you guys okay? Yes, we're fine. Yeah, absolutely, no worries. Now you know that those words aren't true. You know from the energy, from the feeling of it, that there is something else going on. That's how kids interact with the entire world. See, communication is 80% non-verbal. Really let that sink in, because this is really, really relevant for what we're looking at right now in this transition, maybe back to something more resembling where we were before. And also when we're looking at creating this new norm, it's not defined yet. And I think really there are some huge dangers around thinking that the 20% that's left, looking at your face and words, I can tell you, I'm really happy today. I've had such a great day. And it can be absolute BS. It can be a total and utter fraud. You never know. So let's move on to communication. Communication is human. It's the first word I've written. What makes us so blessed as a creature is we have the ability to create such nuanced communication, from body to music to art to literature to vocabulary when we speak to television to newspaper. To think about all the amazing plethora of communicative mediums we have as a creature. You know, there's some beautiful communication methods in nature, of course, but don't you think we've kind of managed to hook them all? Which means that it's an extremely human thing to communicate. It also means it's a very dehumanizing thing, which I'm sure many of you have felt these last 12 weeks. I know I have. Not being able to do live shows, not being able to mix with people. It feels like there's something deeply missing, right? And there are some pleasant bits, time off and more time to get fit or learn to make sourdough or just be depressed and drink gin all night, whatever it is you've chosen to do. But don't you think that gap is part of that? We're missing a vital human exchange, which is communication. Communication is energized. That's another word I've written. Now, I don't mean it's always like I am. Yeah, what? It's not always that, but there's always energy to it, isn't there? If there's a secret, if you're suspicious, if you're down, if you're really pensive, there's an energy to it. It's not like we're seeing on the screens. You know, a good actor, somehow you feel the energy. I watched a film last night. Amazing. It was, I can't remember the name of the film now. Anyway, it was that film that's come out recently on Netflix about the four guys that go back to Vietnam to find the gold bullion. It's energy when the actors are right, when there's a speech that's rousing, right through a screen, pre-recorded like this is. You feel lifted. So communication is energized. Quiet can be energized. Written form can be energized. You can read a book that makes you feel a million ideas at once. So energy is an essential part of communication, must be. And the final one I've written is alive. We can't accept and we mustn't allow any of our communication, especially us, because we work with children. We're the ones, we're the dream makers, we're the magic makers, we're the joke tellers, we're the inspiration encouragers. All of you are. If you are communicating with children, it's your duty. It's your duty to make it alive. They've got to feel even more than usual. It's always been your responsibility, but even more than usual now, as kids are not going back to school, some of them, and even if they do, they've got weeks and then it's hot summer holidays. Communication's got to be alive. So, you know, Zoom, I've said, Zoom still has to have this. Whether you're having a meeting with your team, I spoke recently to a friend of mine who was, in fact, Steve, I think you're probably out there, who was talking about that he may not bring his team back to the office, that they're not planning to go back to that because actually people feel really good working from home. And I agree, there's definitely an element where we're all a little bit more comfortable. Many of us are more comfortable. But I do wonder What about when you're creating something? What about, doesn't it, every block that moves us further from each other, either geographically or digitally, it also strips away unseen elements of that human interaction, of that communication, and especially play. Play is very hard to create when you're not in the same room as each other. You know, when someone on your team comes in, I had someone recently on my team, they had a great idea. We had a socially distanced meeting in our Seagull warehouse, and they were like, right, what if? And just their presence, I suddenly, I felt all like, wow, that's a great, even before they told me the idea, I could feel how much belief they had in it by the energy that they brought to the room. So this is where we have to be, this is where we have to go to. You know, what's the value of that 80% that's not verbal? You know, a moment ago I said 80% of your communication is non-verbal. What value does that hold? We can all talk on the phone. Zoom, you can have a face, although it jars, and sometimes you're talking to someone and it's jarred and they've frozen seconds, 10 seconds before you even realise. So what we're losing is the other 80%. And I want you really to think about this as you make your plans for your teams or your managers make the plans for you. What is the value? Not just the value to you in terms of quality of life, but the value to your playful communication. We cannot create content for children if we are not playfully communicating at the very heart of it. That has got to be the founding point, the end goal of all of our creation and our creativity and our ideas. Right now, all of you, the end goal surely has to be to reintroduce an even higher level of energy back into our children's lives when they are not able to leave their homes. It should have been that anyway, but we are not in a position anymore where we can blag things. Not that I'm saying you did, but let's be honest, when you're working at home, how many of you still do? If you're not senior management, if you are working for a team, you've always worked hard, but now at home you're able to get it done in like 3 hours. How many of you have actually told your boss, actually I did that in 3 hours? Of course not, you don't want to reduce your hours down, but how many of you are now noticing, I'm just holding my hands up, candid, I definitely am. I am doing slightly less at a slightly lower energy than I was a month ago. And even less so than I was 2 months ago. I'm just more used to having a cup of tea. I'm at home, 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm not, right, I'm going to finish this and then get that. I'm like, well, I'm going to have a biscuit, sit outside in the sun and have a cup of herbal tea, and then I'll get back to it. We have a huge responsibility. I said this to some of you last year, but the role all of us are part of, the product, the content that all of us are part of in one way or another is like the food that we're feeding our children's creative brains or playful brains or learning brains or innovative brains. This is the fuel we're putting in their tanks of life. And that is huge. That is a huge opportunity, an opportunity to really instill confidence in bending and pushing against rules. I'm not talking about turning up to school late, but you know what I mean. We have made some huge situations worldwide that are going to need innovation to solve them. We haven't managed it, us grown-ups, so maybe the kids are going to have to think outside of the box. Where do they learn to do that? You guys. In the articles, in the shows, in the content, in the online digital, in the learning packs that you say, let's make it play. Nothing wrong with putting learning play, but be authentic. Don't hide it, make it proper. Kids are funny. They've got amazing sense of humour, but you know what? They can also sniff out a rat. If you are trying to sneak it in and you're pretending it's play, but underneath they have to take some moral away. Don't do it. Don't do it. We can share the morals anyway. Everyone, I believe, is born with a real pure, innocent devotion to being decent. And yet, somehow, we deaden down. And I think that's because, and again, I think I said this at the conference last year, real play is what I'm interested in. Real, dynamic, muddy knees, roll around, lift your voice, leaves in your hair play. Now, our job right now is how do we make that real play digital, accessible to people who are no longer able to go to the park. Okay, things are lifting, but it may well go back, where I've got the lingering habit of excessive screen time. That is a huge responsibility, as I say, for you guys, and a huge opportunity. So what do we do about that? We have to, as I say, look at what is play and what is communication, and make sure your end goal is to playfully communicate. Now, I want to talk about energy. I've made that point time and time again, the communication. You're getting to the grips with it, right? Good. Energy. I've said this to you last year, but we are going to do a little something now as well. You cannot super duper create something mega and thrilling and brilliant for kids in any capacity if you're not willing to find your childlike energy, the arrogance that we think we're going to teach our kids how to play. We're going to create these contents and you can watch it and say, yeah, it'd be really good to remind them what play is. Kids know. You give a kid a cardboard box, it's already 17 different things before it's even not a box. It's a ship and a spacecraft, and all of this is cliche, but all of it is true. You cannot play properly unless you're willing to make an absolute fool of yourself and unless you're willing to let out a proper roaring energy. I don't know about you, I'm quite old and I'm going to show my age now, but I grew up with the likes of Live and Kicking. I loved Live and Kicking. There was something about it, felt riotous. And then Ant and Dec. Ant and Dec right back in the day, loved it. Dick and Dom, again, like, I know some of these guys are still around. I know that I'm dating my thoughts, but all of those people had a gift and a talent, which was that through a screen and through a show on TV, they could make us feel alive. Tens of thousands of us. And they weren't upset about making a fool of themselves. In fact, they took the fall. They took the fall and played it bigger. Yeah, it was like this. The Big Breakfast, what an amazing show that was. Used to love it. Johnny and Gabby on The Big Breakfast. Didn't it just make you feel wakey, 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 rise and shine? Fantastic. Right, so we need to learn to make fools of ourselves. We need to learn not to make fools. I guess we need to learn to see our inhibitions, but see them as a hindrance to opening the full channels of communicative play and of playful communication. So right now, I want you to stand up off your seats. Now, yes, I can't see you, but it doesn't mean I can't judge you for being grumpy and not joining in. It's going to take 5 minutes of your time and you can sit right back down again. Stand up on your feet. Stand up, stand up, stand up, stand up. Now, whew, it hasn't been very physical for very long, has it? No, it's been looking at stuff and talking about stuff for months. Let's get some energy back in our bones. So I want you to stand up, put your shoulders by your side, roll them back a little bit. You've probably been staring at a screen for the days and days and days before. Stand up. I want you to shut your eyes. I don't care if someone's in the room with you. I don't care. Take your headphones out, unplug them. It doesn't matter. Tell the person in the room, I'm going to be noisy. Deal with it, right? Nothing wrong with being a bit of noise. Why do quiet people always get the right? It's 10 o'clock and you're making a lot of noise and we're trying to get to sleep. Cool, well, I like to stay up till 12, so we have equal rights to be noisy, no? Some of you are like, okay, you lost me, man. I've got really noisy students next door. You've lost me. Okay, scrap that. Let's get started. Roll your shoulders back, and I want you to do me a favour. I want you to close your eyes for a second, and you're going to say in your head, yes. You're going to say, yes, I'm going to do this. Just for a second. Allow yourself to go there. Trust me, you're going to feel something that's going to remind you of what's needed in your content. So say this after me. I will do the next exercise. I will give it all my energy. I will throw away my inhibitions just for 4 minutes because I accept my responsibility to lift hearts and inspire minds and create energy in those that participate in my work. Are you ready? Okay, open your eyes. In front of you there is a box. That box is invisible, but inside of that box, ooh la la. Say it after me. Ooh la la. First test, you did it quietly. Some of you did it medium. Allow yourself the liberty of going bonkers. Ooh la la! In that box is every single thing that has ever existed and everything that could ever exist in every possible combination. There is an aardvark playing the ukulele while standing on one leg eating hula hoops. There is everything. There is a flipper, there is a map, there is a shoe, there is a teapot, there is a deck chair. There is every single thing that ever existed. But there's a problem. Everything that's in that box is not meant to be in that box. It's meant to be right over there in a pile. So you have precisely 1 minute to take everything out of the box and throw it to one side. Are you ready? If you're ready, come in. Oh, yeah! Come on, let yourself be silly. Come on, come in. Oh, yeah! Here we go then. I'm looking at the clock. It's 2, 1, go! Take it all out. There's a flipper, there's a teapot, there's a mug, there's a hat, there's a pair of shoes, there's my laptop case, there's Jaffa cakes, there's Victoria sponges, there's sandwich. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Louder, louder, louder. Take it all out. You've got 40 seconds left. You've got to get everything out. There's a hovercraft, there's a car, there's a motorbike, there's a deck chair. I've already said deck chair, there's a washing machine, there's a transit van. Keep going, keep going. Louder, 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 louder. Push, 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 push. Energy, energy, energy. Get to the block and push through it. What else is there? There's your mum's favourite sweater. Ah! There's a barbecue. There's a barbecue tool. There's a sweet corn. There's a beach holiday ticket. There's my passport. Go, keep going. You've got 10 seconds left. All the things out of the box. Come on, come on, come on. Louder, louder, bigger, bigger. 5, 4. Keep keep going. 3, come on, 2, and 1, and stop! Whoo! Did you empty everything out? Okay, we haven't got very long. We were going to put it all back in. You got away with that one. So I want you to lift up the box. This time, take a breath. Do a dragon's roar. Got to get ugly, got to get silly, got to get gross, got to throw your inhibitions to a side, because kids don't need any more of those, they need less of them. As they get older, they get tougher, they get squeezed into this idea of self-monitoring. Let's just screw this up. Box done. This brings me to my final point, and then we're going to have to say goodbye to you. I want to say a massive thank you for being invited on here by Alison and the team at CMC to take part in this art of. Here are your takeaways. What is missing now? Number one, right now in your life, in your work, in this new norm, in this situation, what is missing right now? Name it, define it. Don't be like, oh, I'm missing tea bags. Don't be so silly. Although tea bags are also missing if you don't have them. I'm talking about what is missing. Communication, friendship, hugs. Oh man, it was my friend's birthday, can't even hug him. What's missing is the qualities of life. It's the quality of human interaction. It's the quality of communicating with more than just words and just screens. What's missing now? Think about that, because that's your challenge. That's your challenge, because you're going to have to put that back in. If it's missing for you, trust me, it's missing for the kids 1,000 times more. What is missing now? How are you going to get that into your work and into your offer? That's a really important one. This is where we're getting down to. You've got to get over that barrier somehow. And here's the deal. The bigger the barrier, like what's missing from your work, all these things that are in the way, all the hurdles of a convention that's no longer deliverable because people aren't able to meet, all those things, the bigger the barrier, the bigger the obstacle, the more you have to adapt and the bigger you have to make your ideas. Look, when I first had the idea of going into the refugee camps, remember at the beginning I told you what we did. I had to figure out how I get through those things, how I get through the language challenge, the physical challenge, the cultural challenge, the authorities, the fact that there are police there who are furious and there's these mad situations and I'm just a clown in the middle. You adapt and you adapt and you devote yourself to retaining the elements of magic. Like I said earlier, you're still the dream makers. You're still the inspirers, you're still the game sharers, you're still the entertainers. That's still your role. More now than ever, because you're the only thing we're watching. So adapt and get bigger, be radical. That crazy idea you've had for years that you always thought maybe it'd work, I don't know. Try it, make it happen and dream big. Now this is the final takeaway, and then I have to say goodbye because we've reached the end of our time. I want to tell you, if you manage to reconnect with that surging energy, not only will you get rid of some of the lethargy and the apathy and that demotivating energy that's been lurking for so many weeks now, not only will that dissipate in seconds, but if you really connect and you can return to being the playful communicator, then other people in your team will feel the same. It's a domino rally. That's how positivity works. I've been in the most dangerous camps all over the world. I had to go and convince, this is the final story, then I'm done. I had to convince the General Brigadier of the entire North Aegean Army to give me permission to go into camps and do magic shows. This is a very serious man, the biggest, most important military official in the whole of Upper Greece. So me and Bendik, one of my team, we went in full costume. We did a show, we talked to him, we told songs about clarinet. Ben was in the clarinet corps. We spent 2 hours winning around the heart of this extremely sensible and serious role, this man. And you know what? We managed and then by the end of it, this is amazing, just by playfully communicating and really devoting ourselves to the end goal of, I want permission to cheer these kids up. Not I want to beat him, I want to dominate, I want to sneak in. I want permission for him to see the value of these kids being lifted in that way. By the end of it, he told us that the first time he'd been to the camp, when he left, he cried and he devoted a load of budget to build a play park. He shared that really personal, really vulnerable thing with 2 strangers dressed in clown costume. Playful communication is the door opener. It's the mind expander. It's the heart warmer. And you guys are the playful communicators that we are waiting to hear from. I hope you've enjoyed the talk. I wish I could have been there with you. Hopefully we'll see some of you next year. If you want to chat with me or ever communicate about, how we deliver this or how we can, how you can install this into your organisations or your work, you can get my details from CMC. I'll be more than happy to spend some time with you all. In the meantime, I send you a big salute, 2 thumbs up, and I wish you the best fun in the next months creating these radical new ideas. Take it easy. See ya. We are a group of clowns, performers and entertainers. For the last year, we focused our attention on relieving the suffering of some of the kids caught up in the refugee crisis. If you're lonely and someone connects with you, you're less lonely. But in that moment, they know they belong exactly where they are. They know that we want them there. In fact, we want them there so much we're going to yell and sweat and play trumpets and dance and go hoppa, hoppa, hoppa. And they can see the raw energy we're pouring. So they know we want them to be here. And the show is our excuse to have a conversation with them.
What is your name?
And we don't have to worry about learning their language, and they don't have to worry about learning ours. We can still be the best of friends.
Who can tell me any magic words? No? No!
Before, the kids doesn't have anything to do. Just they stay in the tent. When you come, you make something from nothing.
It matters if they're okay or not. It matters if they feel good. I wish we didn't have to be here. I wish they weren't here. But they are, so we are.
3, 2, 1, yalla! Yalla, 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 yalla. Yalla, 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 yalla.